All right, Friday. Happy Friday to everybody. Happy Friday. Welcome to Friday Q&A Live. This is Friday Q&A Live. I'm Jonathan. I'm here hoping to help you figure out an anthem of the day and have you get out and live it. So I'm really happy that everyone who's joining is here. It's going to be a really good time. I'm so excited to be here. Today we're streaming live on LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok today. So no matter where you're tuning in from, really appreciate you joining. I think it's going to be great. You know, I really love these sessions that we get to do that are like this, where I get to come live and answer a question or two from something that somebody has submitted ahead of time. You know, this is really about being able to lift each other up. You know, helping you help lift your load. And by doing this, you help lift my load. I love doing this and being with the people that jump on. I love rallying around other people, helping them get up the mountains that they're climbing. But just, you know, taking a couple of questions here about career, leadership, your growth, you know, do my best to, you know, help us all kind of get to that next level. So, but if you want to be able to submit a question for consideration, go ahead and send me a direct message on Instagram or LinkedIn every week by Friday morning. It can be a topic really of anything on your mind that you feel that I could add value to you on. It could be challenges at work, a leadership dilemma, personal development, you know, growth, whatever's on your mind. Send those questions in, and you might hear it answered on next week's show. So really appreciate those of you that sent me a couple. I got a couple of questions this week, so I'm really excited to be answering one today. Really excited to be doing that. Before we jump in, I want to make a really exciting announcement, some exciting news to share. I've had some questions from some people about, you know, how do they work with me beyond, you know, either just these live sessions or also some corporate engagements that I do. And so after the 1st of January here in 2026, I'm excited to announce I'm going to be launching my very first open enrollment coaching program. So I'm really excited to be doing that. What it's going to be about is it's going to be about helping, you know, instill lessons that I've learned throughout my career, many times the hard way, strategies that I've been able to share with clients in the few years that I've been doing this, the things that have been working, things that have been helping to produce results. Up until now, I've only been offering this kind of coaching program with my private corporate engagements, but starting in January, we're going to start our own Honeycomb Anthems open enrollment program. So I hope that sounds exciting. I'm really excited about that. Right now, we're going to be in the pre-enrollment mode right now. So if any of you are interested, you can do some exploration with me and see if you'd like to secure a spot. Those who sign up early, I'm going to have some extra perks in store for them. But the whole program is going to be able to help those that are in it, help grow themselves. How are they adding value in their profession? Being able to strengthen your leadership skills. How are you developing your teams, the teams that you're on? How do you boost your personal effectiveness? Looking at your career, kind of mapping that out, and exploring and dreaming about possibilities of the type of value that you can add to your companies, your industry, equipping you to be able to be more confident, more capable version of yourself in work. And, you know, these skill sets are translatable in life too. So if that's something that you're interested in, I invite you to go DM me the word coach on Instagram or LinkedIn, and we can have a conversation to see if it sounds like a fit for you. It probably won't be a fit for everybody, but if it sounds like you're interested in it, go send me that direct message on Instagram or LinkedIn, and I'd love to talk to you about that. I'm really excited for the things that we've got lined up. It's going to be really exciting. I'm going to have some special events in the program and those kinds of things. So it's going to be really good. But today, I want to get to the Q&A that we have for today. Today we have a question here that was submitted to us by an engineer in the energy industry in Houston, Texas. And so we're going to do that. We're going to try to keep the submission of the questions anonymous, because I know that sometimes people will, you feel more comfortable submitting the question if your name isn't attached to it. I think that's great. And so that's what we're going to do today. Is someone, an engineer in the energy industry in Houston, Texas, submitted this. The question today that we're going to ask is, or that we're going to talk about today, that this person submitted, they basically gave me a one-liner, and they said, "Hey, my boss isn't developing me like I feel like I should be being developed. Do you have any pointers of what I can do?" So absolutely, would love to talk to you guys about that today and have a conversation about that. Look, this is a really good question, first of all, and especially since the pandemic in 2020, where a lot of organizations, we hit the eject button on good development practice with our people. Some organizations have been bringing good practice back, and they've been trying to make it better, and some have. And it's been really cool to see what some organizations are doing. But let me just start off by acknowledging the frustration that happens here. Is, many times, no matter where you're at in the organization, it's tough when you feel like you're ready to grow, but you feel like the person that is managing you isn't exactly there to help you get to that next level. I have felt that before, and I know it can be discouraging, but there's a really big, important point that I want to make about just the question and the mindset that we can all address, and that I had to address in my career, which was really important, is that if you want development and growth, you're going to have to own it. Owning your career, because no one else, not your boss, not HR, not a mentor, is really going to be able to do that for you. Only you can do that. And so there are ways to do that, but at first that kind of a statement, it can sound a little intense, but it's a truth that you just have to grab a hold of and start, trying to investigate how you can do that. Because your career, your growth, it's your responsibility. You give a season of your life to the place where you're working, to your job. So why not try to make it the best possible? Why not try to embrace a mindset that says, hey, I'm here, I'm investing a season of my life into this. The company, in whatever form, is investing something in me. I'm at least employed by this organization. So what am I doing to get a return for myself and for anybody else that has poured into me in whatever capacity that's been? And when you feel ownership around that investment and you think of it that way, some things in your mind can start to shift and change. Now, we're going to get to some practical steps here in a moment, but I want to share a quick story with you about this when I first started having to pick up this lesson. This is a lesson that actually early on, I literally picked it up on the basketball court as a kid. You probably don't think that in the call like this that we're going to be talking like basketball, but and one of the things that I do in some of my team workshops, I love at the beginning to have some scene setting by looking at some of the great teams throughout the last 30 to 50 years that are quite famous. One of them that I like to talk about is the 1992 Dream Team and the folks that were on there and the things that they were able to accomplish. That's the USA Basketball Olympic team, and Michael Jordan was on that team. And I love to tell everybody that I have a lot in common with Michael Jordan because I, too, was cut multiple times from my high school varsity basketball team. And my story there was, 3 years in a row, trying out, getting cut, and for a 14-year-old, a 15-year-old having to deal with that can be devastating, especially with something that you love and something that you love doing. But it actually turned out for me to be an amazing thing that happened because it taught me something that I had to learn in life. And it's that no one else is going to make something like that happen for me. And if I wanted a spot on that team, I had to be able to put the work in and earn it for myself. So something finally went off. People had been telling me some things I needed to own. And finally that summer between my sophomore and junior year, I just started to make, hustling my new best friend, getting in, doing the work, training when other friends and those kinds of folks were, doing some things. I had to put in the extra work and decided that it was going to be different. I had to change. As much as I wanted to look at the coach that was making the decisions and that they needed to change, I found out that I had to. And so I needed to show up differently. I had to give a different level of effort. I had to give something, in a different intentionality. And I finally, overcame the challenge. Now, I didn't go on, that team didn't go on to win state tournaments or North Carolina not coming to give me a full ride scholarship to college. But it taught me something really important for me is that, being cut, I had to figure out how to come back different and finally take ownership of the result and the things that I really wanted. Now, the principle is the same in our careers. Our boss, sometimes they don't develop you like you feel that they should. But I've got news for you. Even the companies that invest a lot of money and they have great development programs, you still have to have some intentionality to be able to handshake the development that they will give you and get value from it. And what are you doing with it? You see, so we have to kind of view that, the boss that you have right now, you might feel like you've been cut from the team, or it might be a setback. But, this can be a Michael Jordan moment for you. The challenge of trying to figure out what is it that I might need to own to be able to go and step up to that next level is something that I can get after. My managers maybe not helping me. And instead of feeling stuck, we have to kind of say, okay, game on. I'm going to go, figure out some things that I can do for myself and continue to grow and look at what I need to do. Now, practically, what does that look like? Well, the first thing that you can do is you can make a plan for the growth. No one's going to hand you a neat little improvement plan, for the dream. You have to kind of get after it and, figure out some habits, figure out some skill sets that you want to grow in. And so it takes some time and effort to kind of map out some things that you want. What experiences are you actually after for? What do you want to be positioned for when you get there? In some of the work I do with my clients, we actually create a career growth plan for this. We take time to, dream a little bit, have a vision. Who is that 10.0 version of you that you want to be? Are you being that person today? What are your values? What are the principles that you want to live out? Get some awareness. What are the strengths that you have? What are the weaknesses that you have? If I was going to take a day and shadow you at your place of work and go interview this boss that you feel isn't developing you, that person would still have an opinion probably on how you bring value to the team. Where's your opportunities for growth? And are you clear on those? Have you asked those kinds of questions? Have you gone and sought that type of input and that type of feedback? Those things can begin to give you, capabilities, capacities that you're going to have to develop. And then it even clues you into even some relationships, some mentors that you're going to have to go own to figure out who can support you along the way. Now this is something that you can start doing right now. And that's what I really like about this idea. It doesn't have to be overly complicated. Start to write down the things that you feel that you want to be developed in, some ideas down on paper about some strengths, some weaknesses. If you fixed one of those, how could it help you? And then try to prioritize those things and do some research on how you can grow by yourself. Now, write it down, because if you have a goal and you haven't written it down, it's just a wish. There was a recent speaking engagement that I was at where I actually polled the whole group of people that were there. There's a few hundred people from this division, this projects division. We were talking to an owner company, and I polled that whole audience on the question of how many of you have a written growth plan that you've actually written down and you've aligned with your boss. The answer was only 7% of the people in the room. Now, I know my statistics professor is probably going to say, hey, that may not be a statistically significant sample size for us to have any kind of meaningful data, but it's a great sample and an example about the opportunity that's there to have a written development plan that you've actually worked through with your boss to say, hey, here are some things that I need to grow in. I recognize these are my weaknesses. I recognize, though, that these are some things that I bring to the table, some strengths. And I'm a big fan of taking strengths and finding a way to make them better. How can you strengthen your strengths? But only 7% of the people in that room had a written growth plan that they had written down and they had aligned it with their boss. So, if you take the initiative to write out your own development plan, you're already ahead of 93% of the people, at least in this sample that I'm talking about. But see, that's the power of being intentional, is finding a way to have conversation around the things that you want to grow in, and finding a way to have partnership with your boss, your organization, around some of the things that are on that list. Some of them you might have to do on your own. Some of them, after a conversation, you might be able to gain some support. And so when you bring that plan to your boss, we want to do this in a way that's safe for both of you to have a dialogue around it. We don't want to do it in a confrontational way. We want to find a way to do it that enhances collaboration. For example, you could say, hey, I've been thinking about my career growth and I've jotted down a few goals, some skills that I want to develop, and I'd love to get your feedback on this. Now, when you invite them into the dreaming, when you invite them into the planning process, it becomes very safe because people help support what they help create, right? So what we want to do is we want to invite your boss into that conversation of the development that you feel you want to undertake, and then find places where they feel like, what could we do to make this happen? Is there any of this that you feel like we could support? Giving them an example of something to jump in to help you with can be much more powerful than just kind of giving them the blanket feedback of, you're not developing me. Take ownership, be part of the process, help them help you. And that can be something very important. But don't just stop there in the plan and in the dreaming. I really want you to think about looking beyond your boss for growth. Your boss might be busy. They might have a busy schedule, those kinds of things. But even if you've gotten their input, we want to expand the people that you invite into that planning process. And so what we want to do is we can seek out mentors or teachers. And so ask ourselves, is there someone else in the organization, someone outside of the organization, someone in industry, a coach, a mentor, somebody that I admire, somebody that is on a path that I might want to explore, and go talk to them. How could we do that? Well, what I don't want you to do is something that I call I call this the dating conversation in mentoring. Is just walking up to the most senior executive that you have access to and just saying, hey, will you mentor me? That's very difficult, actually. There's a lot of things that go on in the mind of a senior leader when somebody just comes and they says, will you mentor me? Think about that, going up to a random stranger and just asking them, will you date me? There's all kinds of things that start swirling around in the head. They're asking for a ton of commitment. I hardly know you. I'm already mentoring 5 other people. Can I add another person to my calendar? I have this full list of calendar that I need to go through. Calm it down. Again, help them feel safe in the conversation. And one of the ways to do that is to just simply ask for a conversation. Ask them for coffee. You now ask them for a completely different level of commitment by doing that. If you go up and you just ask them, hey, coffee, I find a lot of people are open to that kind of a conversation. And so when you have coffee, one of the things that you want to do is to be focused on them. Focus on their story. Focus on what have been the key milestones in their life, in their career, that have gotten them to the place of where that they've gotten to. And this is really applicable in any aspect of life. It can be a boss, it can be a work situation, but it can be something in life. If you want something different, one of the things that you can do is go find somebody who you feel has kind of navigated that path or a similar path or challenge. Ask them to coffee and ask them to share their story. There's power in the ability to share a story And then to ask curious questions. What was it that made that so special? What was a turning point in that for you? What was the most significant piece? How did you get to where you are? I did this one time with a senior leader that I saw giving a special presentation to an employee resource group. I just went up and asked them for coffee. They did. I did, and they agreed. And that was a really cool conversation, being able to ask them about their story. And then eventually they opened the door for me to share mine. See, a lot of us sometimes will get that wrong. We ask somebody to coffee, we sit down, and immediately we jump into what? We jump into our story. Hey, while we're here, I want to tell you what I'm wrestling with. And we like to go down the list. My boss, they won't develop me. I really want to get to here, but I need you to give me all the secret sauce that you obviously know that I don't. But see, the trouble with that is again, we get that other person in a state of now we haven't done our due diligence to get them in a safe place. It's not a dreaming kind of a conversation. All of a sudden now we've started down spiraling in the discussion and being negative, critical, and all that kind of stuff. And listen, I am the biggest culprit here, and I have had to learn this. You spend time interested in that other person. They're asking in the back of their head, does this person care about me? Can I trust this person? And some of those are some of the immediate questions that you can answer by that approach that you take. And that mentor that I said that I went and had that coffee with, that became a regular person that I was able to go to. If it works, if the conversation works for you, feel like it works for the other person, ask for another meeting at the end of it. Hey, this was really good. I got a lot of really cool nuggets from what our conversation was. Would you mind if we did this again? Again, you're not asking them for a commitment. You've kind of tried out the discussion, let them see if they liked it too. And next thing you know, if it is working, okay, hey, would you mind if we met regularly so that we could kind of make this into more of a mentoring type of a relationship? See, make it safe. And be interested in them. Be interested in their story. Be curious about where they have been. What battles have they faced? What battles have they overcome? People generally like to share their hard-earned stories and their lessons. And when you do that, one of the greatest ways to be able to honor them by them giving you that information is to go do something with it. Go take the nuggets that you receive, go try it, and then ask for another meeting. Hey, would you mind if we got back together? I tried some of the things that you mentioned in the last discussion. Would you mind if we came back together and I shared with you what happened? And you come back and there's an honoring conversation. It's like, hey, I learned this when we met. Here's what's happened since then. And by the way, here's some additional challenges that I've been facing. And by doing that, you continue to invite that continued brainstorming and the ability then to go and act on it and get a result from the things that you've been told. And so this is huge. If someone's willing to give you a nugget, what are you doing with it? That is a way to grow and develop yourself, is to find people who have trailblazed paths that you want to try. It may not be the path that you want to dedicate yourself to, but go find it. Go ask some questions. Figure out some things about what were part of their story. And then the principles that you find, wrestle through them and go and apply them. Okay, so those are two big things that you can take today. The first thing is, try to start a little bit of a plan. If you feel like someone is not developing you or growing you, do you have things written down about that you do want to grow in? And what's the context of why you want to grow in those things? Do you have a dream, an aspiration? Do you have a vision about the impact that you want to make? I've got a video coming up here soon that's, we're going to talk a little bit about this even in my book that's coming out next year, is, not necessarily fixating on one role as the thing that you go and target in the future. Because when you get there, the future is going to look totally different when you get there. But if you have a vision of the 10.0 version of you, who do you want to be when you wake up? How do you want to feel when you walk through the door on Monday morning? How do you want to feel when you get in the car on the way home? Who's that person that you want to be? Are you living up to that? And how can you then close that gap? That's something that can continually be with you for the rest of your career and even into your life. Share that dream then. Share that version of you. Be vulnerable enough to say, hey, here's the 10.0 version of myself that I've written down and that I want to be, and I'm not there. I need your help. I'd love for you to come into the dreaming process with me. Give me some ideas. I'd like to grow in this. What are your ideas about how I could do that? Maybe that person will tell you, you need to go and do some investment in yourself. But maybe they'll open their resources to you and make them available. You see, sometimes they're not always living in your world 100% of the time to totally be consumed with what you need. So sometimes we have to help them, remind them, invite them into the story that we're living every day, and be that person that has taken ownership enough of that conversation. Go find some people that you can share the story with. Ask them their story. What are the battles that they have fought? What are the ones that they've won? And be willing to take those things and then implement them and come back and share growth with them and be excited. So that's one thing that you can do. The engineer that asked us the question today in Houston is, look, you don't have to wait for your boss to make the world open to you. You need to take ownership of it. You see, growth is always possible and change is always an option, but only when you stop waiting for someone else to do it for you and you choose to own it. All right. Well, look, you've got this, and all of us can use this situation as some fuel today. How can we take ownership of the things that we feel that we are led to go after, right? I promise you, do your part, and there are things that as you step, resources begin to follow. You can get to where you're going. I know, and I'm confident in you, and I'm very thankful that those of you that are joining today, that you're after becoming that 10.0 version of yourself. You know, and when we all do that and we share that story, it inspires each other right back. So we've got a few of you that are in the live. You know, just drop a couple of comments about what resonated with you. But I want to encourage you to keep the conversation going. Keep it going with yourself. Keep it going with those mentors. And I look forward to seeing some of your questions too. Go onto Instagram, go into LinkedIn, and direct message me some of the questions each week. And we'll pick one each week and we'll answer it here on Friday. And again, just reminding everybody again about the open enrollment coaching program that we're going to start in 2026. Very excited for it. Go and DM me the word coach if you'd like to find some more information about that. And thanks for showing up today. Keep owning your growth. And so until next time, stay inspired, stay proactive, keep being the awesome people that you are, wrestle out the anthem that you want to live today.